आप सबको नमस्कार। द ग्रेट सोनू निगम, उनका एक गाना है, शाहरुख खान की एक फिल्म आई थी मैं हूं ना, किसका है ये तुमको इंतजार मैं हूं ना, देख लो इधर तो एक बार मैं हूं ना। इसलिए बोल रहा हूं क्योंकि ये गाना अब आईपीएल की तरफ से जा रहा है फिरंगी प्लेयर्स को, कि आपको इधर उधर भटकने की जरूरत नहीं है। आप यहाँ ये सोने की चिड़िया है, लूटिए 20 करोड़ 24 करोड़, कोई कमी नहीं है, कोई परफॉर्मेंस के बारे में पूछेगा भी नहीं। और मैं एक पॉइंट पे आना चाहता हूँ, द बिगिनिंग ऑफ दिस शो, टू टॉक अबाउट हाउ ऑक्शंस आर बीइंग मैनिपुलेटेड। सो मिचेल स्टार्क and Pat Cummins are the two most expensive players, and then there is Darren Mitchell. So it's riding between 20.5 crores, 24 plus crores, and it's amazing kind of money which is being spent by these teams. Now the thing is that the information which is coming in is that many of these players through their agents do not take part in the mega auction. The IPL mega auction takes place once in 3 years. They do not take part in that. They wait for the mini auction to come in, because the IPL teams are at that point flush with money. They just need to fill a few gaps. कोई बढ़िया पेस बॉलर है या नहीं, उसको पकड़ लो, किसी ऑलराउंडर को पकड़ लो, और उस पे दबा के ये पैसा निकल रहा है. And I have two good men with me, CS and Sandeep. CS, let's have your thoughts as an opening bouncer. What do you feel? I mean, seriously, 24.5 crores being spent on a pace bowler, and Jasprit Bumrah is getting only 11 crores.
Is there any method in this madness? I don't understand. Look at KKR. They have let, Pat Cummins go, before the auctions happened. They let him go to some other team. They didn't retain him. And Pat Cummins, you have to understand, he also bats well. He is a good fielder. He's a good thinker. He could be your captain in case Shreyas Iyer or anybody gets injured or something, So he's a good strategist. And then you take somebody for 24.5 lakhs, instead, who is just a bowler. Good bowler. There is no doubt about that. He's one of the finest bowlers. But the point is, look at his averages overall, or look at his T20 record in the recent times. He has been slammed by everyone. It's not that he is the only one who could restrict. He restricts, he takes wickets, but the point is he also gets slammed. There are so many times I have seen Rohit Sharma or anybody else, going after him. So he's not some kind of invincible, or he's not some kind of that he's going to destroy your entire team, the opposition, and could win you the matches. And he's a very okay kind of fielder. He's not one of the finest fielders in the Australian side. And then batting, he bats at number 11. So point is, you are letting go a fine player, an all-rounder, a good thinker, and you are getting somebody for 24.5 crores. And when you have a purse, you are left with only, 3-4 crores extra to get other players. And this is, जिसे कहते हैं बेवकूफ़ी की इंतहा, मुझे वो लगा KKR के इस मेथड में. Rest, they must be having some plans. Let's hope they win this IPL. If that happens, I would say yes, they had some plans.
Sandeep, your thoughts? I know you have a completely different mindset, and it would be good to hear that.
No, it's not wrong entirely what CS is saying, but the larger pictures are not about individuals at times. The larger pictures, I think, probably in something like the IPL, which is, let's be honest here, it's not as big a sport as football. But at the same time, it's garnering as many eyeballs as football in terms of worldwide leagues. It's garnering as much of valuations as probably some of the big EPL teams. It's probably on its way. I'll put it in a different way. It's on its way to probably get into an NFL, NBA kind of a situation, maybe in the coming decade and a half, which is not far off. I mean, if you really look at from where IPL began and where we are now. But I think that term that Real Madrid coined, the Galacticos. The Galacticos were not formed because, of course, they had to perform, but the Galacticos also were formed because a club needed to have big time spending on big time players. You can always have a quality discussion and an argument and an opinion on quality players, what constitutes a quality player. But I think when an auction comes around, I think the bigger the headline, the bigger the splash, I think so much more for valuation, so much more for people across the cricketing world and outside of the cricketing world to probably raise eyebrows and say, hey, what's happening here in this part of the world? Look at the money that they're being offered to play probably 2.5 months. And then you have an EPL which goes on for 9 months. And it probably comes down to almost that kind of a measurement. So I think it is probably the start of the formation of the Galacticos and also the start of what we eventually, and I hope both of you agree with me on this, eventually the start of what I would believe in the next decade is a 7 month, 8 month, 9 month around league because man, rest of things are not going to remain. It's going to be one of the biggest leagues in the world.
I can see your
So,
commercial mind
so
is working more time, Sandeep, because the jacket you're
No,
wearing
no.
has half a dozen logos. तो आप आगे की पहले ही सोच रहे हैं. CS आप कुछ कह रहे थे?
मैं ये कह रहा था, if that happens, Sandeep, believe me,
Yeah.
BCCI तो वैसे ही कमर्शियल ब्रेक ले लेगा क्योंकि तो सब बिक चुके होंगे. पहले ही उन्होंने अपना प्लेटर पे पकड़ा दिया पूरा BCCI का. नाउ मुंबई इंडियंस डिसाइड्स हु इज गोइंग टू लीड इंडिया. मैंने लास्ट प्रोग्राम, इफ यू रिमेंबर, I told you this was Rohit's last match as a captain. He'll be replaced in IPL, and that's exactly happened before the window opens. They took Hardik Pandya, and now Hardik Pandya is going to lead in all the formats. Let me tell you, in very less time, in the future. But the point is, they are already planning 2 IPLs in a year, 1 IPL in India, 1 IPL abroad. They are, trying to get that window also by the ICC. And second, also, when you talk about Galacticos or all this, that creating that kind of environment or that player or a team of all the stars, but then you will not let Pat Cummins go. You will not let the other stars go because if you have to sell your jerseys, I don't think कि स्टार्क की बिकेगी ज्यादा. जर्सीज फिर भी श्रेयस अय्यर या मे बी पैट कमिंस, इनकी ज्यादा बिकेगी. यू हैव टू क्रिएट दैट स्टार्स, बट ऑल्सो कीपिंग इन माइंड कि आपके बाकी के स्टार्स कौन हो गए. Stark is very good bowler, as I have told you. I mean, I have all the regards for him. But the point is, he is not the standalone bowler who could win you entire IPL game. Not at all. Maybe 1 in a 14 or not even 1 in a 14. Right. But yes, he's a good bowler. He's a good player. He's a good face. But his jerseys are not going to be, sold to younger players. They have their own icons. Maybe Rinku Singh will get more jerseys, So I think, again, this is again something that only team could tell. What was their, compulsion of getting him? I have no idea.
Okay, CS, let me come down to a very specific point, and it's a very interesting point. Then we can develop the discussion further. So we are talking about crazy money buys. Now, when you spend that kind of crazy money, you do expect certain performances, but there has been a very strange trend, I would call it, that the moment they splurge on a player, the big bucks, the performance seems to dip. Is it pressure? Is it whatever? I don't know. But
yes.
I have some facts. So let's begin with Stark. Now, if Stark plays this whole season, he will get approximately 7.3 lakh rupees per delivery. यानी 7 लाख के ऊपर per delivery Stark साहब को मिलेगा. सैम करन को खरीदा गया था 18.5 करोड़ पे पंजाब किंग्स में. His performance was below par. Then Ishan Kishan, the same thing happened in the last season. He scored only 418 runs. And again, a flat season he had. Chris Morris, if you remember, the South African all-rounder, he was the top buyer in 2021 at 16.25 crores. Again, his performance was flat. Now, we are talking about Pat Cummins. Now, in 2020, KKR bid 15.5 crores for him. And in 14 matches, he got just 12 wickets, although his economy was fairly decent. Same story was with Jaydev Unadkat and Varun Chakravarti. Then Ben Stokes, on whom quite a bit of money was splurged by CSK, who bought him for 16.5 crores. Rajasthan Royals in 2018 for 12.5 crores. Also, rising Pune Supergiant for 14.5 crores. He made a lot of money out of India, but his performances were quite flat. And there was also an accusation about Stokes that he seemed slightly disinterested. Shane Watson is another prime example. I don't want to go into so many stats. Yuvraj Singh is another prime example. So a lot of money was spent on these big names, but the performances were flat. How do you interpret this, Sandeep?
No, I mean, listen, I mean, you're going to have a hit and run. I mean, a hit and miss, which normally happens across the world. I mean, you're picking players in whatever league, and you always pick a player looking at what can justify his inclusion. Number one, whether he's going to score or take wickets or not, and the same applies to almost every discipline across the world. So, I think if you really look at those kind of factors, and if you really look across Europe, you look across the US, there is a percentage of which is more than actually 28 to 29%. If you go into the books of all the teams that are really doing well in worldwide leagues, 28 to 29% of the big money that is spent on players doesn't actually work out. Why? Performance, number one, dips. Again, the point that you made, pressure always gets to players. Injuries are big time. We are looking at a window of 2.5, 3 months for the IPL in which an injury may happen, may not happen. Just imagine what happens when you splurge on players. $80 million, $90 million, $100 million, or even when we talk about basketball, 500, $600 million over a period of 4 seasons, you lock them in. And I know you're going to come to the point of the lock in thing, but you lock them in for $600 million, and 1 year goes by because of the injury factor. I don't think teams actually look at it like that. They look at headlines, they look at valuations, and they look at how much of a splash is this player going to do when the team comes onto the park. And I think that really acts as a huge come in for a lot of fans. I mean, just imagine if Stark becomes a star. He already is a star. But if he performs, couple of wickets in every match, getting under 20, under 30, that kind of an economy where he's not giving away too many runs, and and the team has won the IPL. I think that's where the money is well spent. If it doesn't, I think that's part of the roll of the dice. I think you rolled your dice. Now let's see how this casino plays its round.
CS?
Well, again, I mean, going into the future, if it becomes that hit, by eyeballs or by the following, it has become a hit. But the point is, cricket is being played in what, 4 or 5 countries. Rest all have been trying to match these countries, and most of the countries are bankrupt in that sense. So, can you create that kind of stars? I mean, Sandeep has some issues with, Sandeep has some examples of football or NBAs. But the point is, we are talking about cricket. And cricket is mainly in the subcontinent. Cricket in Big Bash in Australia is not getting that kind of money. Cricket in South African League is again a different. Caribbean League we have seen. That has completely been boomeranged, kind of. No star player is going there. Or Bangladesh or Sri Lanka tried to, got some players, but they didn't succeed. Point is, can we have that kind of atmosphere? Yes, going into the future, if that happens, maybe I could understand. But right now, when you have a purse of less than 30 crores and and you have a team like KKR, which has not done so great, any big shakes in the last couple of years. So can they buy one player for 24.5 crores and then going for all other, small players and try to get a star kind of team, star-studded team? I don't think that makes a lot of sense. I could have understood if they had spent, kind of 6, 7, 8 crores, kind of 5 players, get 5 good individuals, 2 or 3 all-rounders, maybe one bowler, one complete batsman or wicket-keeper. I would have understood. But I think this is again something that is out of my, कि मैं नहीं समझ पा रहा इनकी strategy को.
Okay, I want to come down to the first time buys जो पहली बार ऑक्शन पे आए और जिन्हें पिक किया गया, उसमें एक आध हैरानगी की पॉइंट है जिस पे मैं आना चाहता हूँ. अब आप समीर रिजवी का केस ले लीजिए, 20 साल के हैं, इनका कोई पुराना रिकॉर्ड नहीं है, खास उन्होंने खेला नहीं है, पोटेंशियल पे मेरठ से हैं, इनके मामू जान ने इनकी बड़ी मदद करी थी और उसके बाद इन्होंने रणजी ट्रॉफी में भी खेला है और 8.5 करोड़ के आसपास इनको पिक किया चेन्नई सुपर किंग्स ने. फिर कुमार कुशाग्र जो उनको डीसी ने पिक किया 7.20 करोड़. ये विकेट कीपर बैटर हैं, बहुत फैन है माही भाई के और रांची से ही हैं. और एक और प्लेयर है रॉबिन, उसको भी वो रांची से ही है, वो भी एक विकेट कीपर बैटर है, करीब 4 करोड़ के आसपास पिक किया गया. शुभम दुबे, उनको भी लिया गया पहली बार. My point, what I don't understand is that you are paying 8.5 crores for Sameer Rizvi, but you are paying only 1.80 crores for Rachit Ravindra. It makes zero
Yes,
sense to me. I find it bizarre. What is the kind of thinking, and how is this happening?
Aruk,
I think
I called up.
this. Sorry,
Please carry on.
I was just trying to make a point on one other aspect. When teams, they sit and they prepare for almost a couple of months or 3 months. I think one particular point which CS will agree and also follow up is that scouting has increased. Because of
Yeah.
the IPL, you have a lot of coaches down the line, whether it is Ranji or whether it is the other tournaments, which are the T20 tournaments across the country. You have scouts which are now saying that, okay, fine. I mean, it's okay. Let me put it in a very different way, but not please don't take it negatively. I'm putting money on a player. I'm putting money on a player, on an ex player, thinking that I'm going to. This is like a punt, and I'm putting money, 8 crores, 6 crores on a player, thinking this might play. This player, I have seen him. I'm the scout. I'm the one who's advised the team. I'm the one who's advised the captain, the owner, and the chief coach, and said, guys, this guy is going to be a hit. If you keep him now, if he comes good, the team is through. If he doesn't come good, you can still keep him for a couple of years and develop him. I think a few players are probably being readied like that. Across, again, I always come back to the World League formula is because even the IPL, even all of us are learning from what happens across the world in terms of the leagues and how options happen or how bidding happens and how players are drafted. I think a lot of players, or even a minority then in the IPL, who are first timers, like you're saying, are drafted on pure potential. What will happen in the next 1 year? What will happen in the next 2 years? And I think at some point of time, the chief coach, who's probably not filtering down the order, actually listens to the scout or to the coach who's seen him and says, okay, fine. If this was the time of Dhoni, when Ashok Malhotra saw him, if we recall that particular moment, Ashok Malhotra probably would have told the coach of a particular IPL team, I saw this guy who's slamming sixes like nobody's business. Let's buy him for 2 crores, for 4 crores, or 6 crores. I think today nobody would have regretted that decision. And maybe tomorrow nobody's going to regret this decision either. But as I said, all decisions in sport are dependent on potential value. Maybe the player that you are referring to has potential value.
But what
Uh,
about Rachin Ravindra? CS.
देखिए दो तरह से स्काउटिंग की जब बात हुई स्काउटिंग हैज डेफिनेटली इंक्रीज बट द पॉइंट इज देयर आर एलिगेशंस अगेंस्ट द स्काउट्स आल्सो you read any of the regional papers in UP you will find 5 लाख कितने scouts ने कहाँ से लिए कितने players को select करने के that has been happening but I'm not getting into that but the point is what has happened in the past when I was covering domestic cricket almost regularly I was traveling all around now I don't travel and I now even nobody covers the domestic the problem is because of IPL they have killed the entire cricket but at that point of time when Pawan Negi was picked up for Delhi for 8.5 crores. Believe me, there was no potential anybody saw in Pawan Negi. He was just an average player. And I called up one good umpire. Again, I don't want to name, but umpire who was doing, his duties during the Syed, what's that, T20 tournament, domestic T20 tournament recently.
Mushtaq Ali.
So I asked Mushtaq Ali, sorry, such a great player. Sorry for that. So I asked him, what about this Rizvi guy? So he told me, Kata, I did 5 or 6 games, in recent last 1 or 2 years of him. I have found him very average player. It's okay, man. He has some talent. He plays with the long handle. He, goes for shots. ये वो सब कुछ जल्दी out भी होता कई बार अच्छे रन भी किए. But he is not. I have not seen that kind of talent जो इतना पैसा मिलता. Maybe now the star power और ये जो चीज जो पवन नेगी के साथ हुआ था 16 रन बनाने मुश्किल हो गए थे उनको इतने बड़े लीग्स में या 100 कुछ रन टोटल बनाए थे उन्होंने उस सीजन में देन ही वाज ड्रॉप्ड फ्रॉम द दिल्ली टीम और इस बार इनके साथ क्या होगा प्रेशर क्या काम करेगा प्रेशर वर्क्स इन बोथ वेज इट कुड मेक यू कंप्लीट खत्म प्लेयर भी बना सकता है और एक बहुत अच्छा प्लेयर भी बना सकता है इनके साथ क्या होगा देखना होगा लेकिन टिल नाउ उनकी जो स्टैंडिंग है यूपी में दैट इज जस्ट लाइक ए एवरेज प्लेयर नो ग्रेट चेक्स बिलीव मी जो मुझे पता भी चला और बाकी लोगों से बट एनीवे गुड लक टू हिम And जब
सीएस
आप रिकॉर्ड
मैं आपके पास आना चाहता हूँ एक स्पेसिफिक लेके which is a very interesting specific which I thought और कुछ नंबर आप हमें भी दे दीजिएगा कि इतने रिसर्च के साथ आप दोनों के सामने आया हूँ so कुमार कुशाग्र ये रांची के खिलाड़ी हैं और इनको डीसी ने पिक किया 7.20 crores which is great which is absolutely fantastic and he's just 19 years old but his father said with tears of joy in his eyes that he met or got a call from Saurav Ganguly, who's the mentor of DC before the auction. And Saurav Ganguly said that I see huge potential in your son और इसको तो DC लेगा ही लेगा 10 करोड़ तक. अब किसी मेंटोर को ऐसी बात करनी चाहिए.
Man, again, I don't want to go into all the details. क्या सुनते हैं क्या होता है, you know. One player, you know, एक player के father मेरे पास आए थे. Again, if I say the money will come to know. उन्होंने कहा जी मुझे तो 50 लाख रुपए मिला, बाकी का पैसा कहाँ गया? मैंने कहा आप आइए रिकॉर्डिंग करता हूँ, I'll write a story. कहते नहीं उससे तो उसका करियर पूरा खत्म हो जाएगा. अब वो करोड़ों रुपए कहाँ गए, किसने उठाए, क्या किया, ये चीजें सब कुछ सुनने में मिलती है. आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि वो ओथ पेपर लेकर के आया था और मुझे किया, बट द पॉइंट इज दीज थिंग्स कीप हैपनिंग. देयर इज अनदर थ्योरी इन द आईपीएल, ब्लैक को व्हाइट करने का, जो आप व्हाइट में इतना लीजिए, इतना अंडर टेबल दीजिए, उस तरह से भी स्टार्स बनाया जाता है. अदरवाइज एट द फैग एंड ऑफ हिज कैरियर, why would you know somebody who was also tainted in the IPL, you know, spot fixing case, or who was allegedly there, he was investigated also, all get 16 or 18 crores at the fag end of his career when he was retiring. He didn't do anything. But the point is, ये सब कुछ जो है ना, black and white जो बहुत कुछ खेल होता है, we have achieved something in IPL, but the point is we have not reached that stage जहां पर NFL या बिग लीग्स की जितनी भी वर्ल्ड वाइड, वहां पर बहुत सी स्क्रूटनी भी होती है. संदीप विल एग्री, वहां पर जो आपकी जो बैटिंग भी हो रही है लेड ब्रॉक्स पे, कहीं पर भी हो रही है, उस बैटिंग पे भी ध्यान रखते हैं. वहां पर आपके प्लेयर्स किस तरह से परफॉर्म कर रहे हैं, उनकी परफॉर्मेंसेस कैसे अप डाउन हो रही है, उसका भी एक खाका बनाया जाता है कि इस पे कितनी बैटिंग हुई है क्या नहीं. यहाँ नहीं वो हो रहा. यहाँ हम बहुत इमोशनल होकर हम देशभक्ति और ये सब कुछ करते हैं. बट द पॉइंट इज यू हैव टू कीप ए टैब ऑन एवरीथिंग, from black and white to his performances, or maybe you can buy him for as many crores, but the point is if you are buying Stark for, you know, this much of money, he's on the wrong side of the 30s. There is no future. Maybe 1 year, maybe 1.5 years is left in his, you know, complete career, but overall I think you have to keep that also in mind.
Okay, now Sandeep, go ahead.
No, I was saying that, you know, the point that CS is making about the other leagues is valid. But we also have to understand one point here, or one big thing is that most of these leagues have evolved over a period of 60 years, 70 years, you know, where a lot of wrongdoing used to also happen, which was stamped out and is still happening. I mean, if you really look at the way money is being spent by Manchester City and all of that, and those, I wouldn't call them threats, but those cases are still on. The league out there in certain aspects is still evolving. So I think the processes will be ironed over a period of time, and more than the pressure on the players. You know, I still recall that Lalit Modi interview somewhere where he keeps saying that this is going to be the biggest league, and it will become bigger than the EPL and bigger than the NBA. I do buy that. I honestly buy that. But I think the processes, the pressure on the BCCI and the people who manage the IPL is enormous. One wrong move, and believe me, one wrong move, and it's already happened in the past where teams were suspended. Anything happening now will actually bring valuations crashing down by almost half, because a lot of people abroad are not in this game because you can tweak rules and you can tweak regulations at will, and simply because you are a certain president or a secretary of the BCCI. I think out there and out here, I think that is where the bridge needs to be built. And like CS was saying, the rest of the leagues are not working. Again, I come back to that same point. I think the IPL is going to be the main 8 months league. It's going to be the weekend tournament over the next decade. The rest of the leagues will all fizzle out and die. And India is going to become the biggest core center for what I do believe is a $50 billion valuation of a worldwide league. Cricket has that kind of potential simply because of the number of population and the number of fans that we can garner. And I think that It's still a decade and a half off, but it'll be nice to play Nostradamus a little.
Just little addition. Read that book of Nikhil Kumar, the former commissioner of police, who became that, anti-corruption unit chief in Delhi, in BCCI. He has said, there is so much to do with the corruption thing in BCCI, which is not being allowed to do. I have another one anti-corruption unit chief, former chief, who was still recently, with the ICC. He said he wanted to investigate certain players. He's on record with me. I have recorded that conversation. And again, this will come out someday. That, he wanted to investigate certain players. He was not allowed to. Then he was removed because some other person took over as chairman, and suddenly he was removed from his duties, despite the fact that he was doing a good job. Point is, good and bad and everything, what Sharad Pawar used to do. I won't say that he's not a politician, or he was not doing all kind of hanky-panky things. But the point is, he left all the cricket to Venksakkar to manage. He was doing all the political and other stuff. He was getting money. He was doing all kind of photo khichwana sessions and everything. But the point is, Sharad Pawar never named any stadium on his name, or he never entered into that territory jahan par Venksakkar kar raha tha. And believe me, the best selection times, best selections happened during that time in Mumbai, in India also, when he was the chief selector. You have to have that vision, and without any bias. Whether you like it or not, the problem with BCCI is it's a one-man show. Nobody has the guts to go against a particular person. Otherwise, they'll be dumped. And there were several instances.
Yes.
मैं तो बोल
Yes, I just wanted to ask you here.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you, I mean, you're looking at the BCCI, you've been looking at the BCCI for a number of years. If I just ask you to look into the future in terms of, okay, let's say the next 10 years, what exactly do you think the BCCI will do regarding the IPL? Do you think they can evolve as a very tough federation that looks at all aspects of the game, focuses on the game, ensures that the players become super rich, and that the sport thrives? Do you really see the BCCI heading that way?
Till I would say 2013-14 kind of, after that IPL episode where Lalit Modi, he left this country, he was barred, he was suspended, everything. During that 2-3 years, they really took some serious steps in order to manage IPL well. Because there were corruption charges, there were charges. Even Lalit Modi ने कहा था पर्ची दे दी थी Flintoff को, यहाँ नहीं, यहाँ पर इस टीम ने खरीदेगी. They were fixing happening openly. We knew during the auctions there. I remember the auctions in Mumbai 2009, I think 2008. First, when after first year, when Pakistani players, a slip was doing the corners, Pakistani players को छूना नहीं है. क्यों नहीं छूना? ओपनली बोल दीजिए नहीं छूना. फिर उसके बाद कह रहे हैं कि अरे आप ब्रेक कर रहे हो स्टोरी, आप तो देश के लिए अच्छा नहीं कर रहे. अरे हर चीज में देश कैसे हो सकता है यार? Pakistani players can't be untouchable unless and until your government or you come out with a strategy कि इनके साथ खेलना ही नहीं है. हम इंडिया में खेलेंगे, हम पाकिस्तान नहीं जाएंगे. These are that, जो डबल ये जो स्टैंडर्ड्स है, ये कभी भी मुझे एज ए स्पोर्ट्समैन, एज ए स्पोर्ट्स जर्नलिस्ट कभी अच्छे नहीं लगे. सो कुछ हो रहा था जो क्लीन अप चल रहे थे. आफ्टर 2013 दैट केस, स्पॉट फिक्सिंग केस, जब बीसीसीआई को क्लीन अप करने की बात आई थी, जस्टिस लोधा आए थे. Initial time, if you remember, there were lot of steps were taken. There were lot of things that was happening in the right direction. But what happened when one person took over from one family, and it has completely gone as one-sided way. अब राजा चाहेगा तो दिन है, राजा चाहेगा तो रात है. अब किसी की हिम्मत ही नहीं है. कौन सीईओ मुझे बताइए, उसकी उनकी औकात क्या है? कौन आईपीएल गवर्निंग काउंसिल की कोई मीटिंग में कुछ स्टोरी या कोई एक एजेंडा निकल के आता है? The person who was appointed as IPL Apex Council में जो CAG ऑफिस के बनाया गया था, आज वो चाय पीते हैं और एक चिट लेकर बस अपना खाता लिखते रहते हैं. उनको उस काम के लिए नहीं रखा गया था. The purpose was something different जो IPL का था. But again, ये जो कहते हैं राम राज्य थोड़ा क्रिकेट में ज्यादा हो गया, तो लेट्स होप
Okay, gentlemen, we'll call it a wrap. But before we go, Sandeep sir's fans are everywhere. So there is a fan
Oh,
called Prashant Sinha, and he wants, his question is, Sandeep sir, is the HIL coming soon? अब आप बताइए.
well, I
$1 million.
mean, coming back. No, it won't be $1 million, of course not. But I think it will be fantastic if it comes back in 2024. My last chat that I had with Dilip Tirki, the president HI, was that they have received around 14 inquiries for the team. They actually wanted to go with 8, but they are now actually contemplating if they can go with more, which is actually a good sign for the sport. And they have received around 4 inquiries for the women's league, which in my opinion I think is a more positive step, because the women don't have a league and they really don't have too many tournaments. So you might have something good happening out there. But yes, it's a small pocket sport. It's a very intense sport, and I think across 6 to 8 on 10 centers in the country, it still draws a massive amount of attention. So if they can get 10 to 12 and not really stretch it, because stretching it means more expenses, more television time, I think it will be good to come back in 2024 around July, just after the Olympic Games. I think the problem is the calendar. The next year's calendar is pretty packed, so I think if they come back, they'll only come back after Paris.
और एक
Okay.
लास्ट चीज संदीप,
जी.
व्हाट हैज हैपेंड इन द रिसेंट टाइम्स, दैट्स संदीप सब्जेक्ट, बट मैं थोड़ा थोड़ा कभी कवर कर लेता हूँ. व्हाट हैज हैपेंड इन द लास्ट 5-10 years is that entire hockey has been shifted to Odisha, which is a good thing. Their government is putting in so much of money. But what has happened to the other parts? दिल्ली में कभी कभार मैच होता था, लोग जाते थे, अरे बड़े नारे लगते थे. यार बिलीव मी, जो मैंने नेशनल स्टेडियम में मैचेस देखे वैसे ओलंपिक्स में भी नहीं देखे. या पंजाब में होते थे, चंडीगढ़ होते थे, लोग जाते थे, कम जाए या ज्यादा, लेकिन पैशनेट क्राउड था. बट नाउ बिकॉज ऑल द हॉकी, वेदर इट्स इंटरनेशनल और नेशनल, इज हैपनिंग ओनली इन ओडिशा. बिलीव मी, इससे मेरे हिसाब से प्लेयर्स का अच्छा हुआ, पैसा अच्छा आया, हो सकता है वहां पर ज्यादा सुरक्षित महसूस करते हैं, ज्यादा अपलिफ्टमेंट हो रही हॉकी की. लेकिन लोगों के अंदर से जब आंखों के सामने नहीं होता ना, तो टीवी पे बहुत दिन ज्यादा अपने जो कहते हैं टीम के लिए आप वो नहीं रहते पैशनेट. सो द डिफरेंस बिटवीन क्रिकेट एंड हॉकी राइट नाउ इज, इन टर्म, नॉट इन टर्म्स ऑफ मनी, बट आई बॉल्स वाला टीवी के अलावा जो लोग स्टेडियम्स में जा रहे हैं, डिफरेंट स्टेडियम्स में 14 मैचेस हो रहे हैं, ऑल डिफरेंट स्टेडियम्स, वो हॉकी में नहीं हो रहा. एंड समबडी हैज टू लुक इनटू दैट.
True.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. And first it was IPL, then it was HIL, and we'll keep we'll keep a lookout for next year, as Sandeep predicts, on how HIL comes back to life. So we'll call it a wrap. Goodbye for now. We'll be back with lots more, and thanks for watching. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.